Kia ora tātou, welcome to this genetic variation video where we are looking at what is variation and what is the importance of variation. So variation, if you have a think about what some of the things are that might be different between yourself and your friends or yourself and your siblings, you'll come up with a list of things. So an easy few ideas could be hair color. You might have a different hair color to your friends or even siblings. You might be a different height. And other examples that are nice to be able to use are things like rolling tongues. So some people can roll their tongue, other people can't. And things that we can't really see is things like blood type. Blood type. And you'll be able to think of plenty other examples. And we can categorize these types of variation into continuous variation. And continuous variation is where variation shows a range. So continuous. And discontinuous. Continuous. Where there's either or. The variation would be either or. It could be either this, like either you can roll your tongue or you can't roll your tongue. So let's go through these examples and decide which one would be continuous and which ones would be discontinuous. So something like blood type, there's a discrete number of blood types that somebody could have. So we would say that that is discontinuous. Hair color, you could argue that there might be different shades, but if we took the approach that there was just either you had brown hair or you had blonde hair, then we could say that is discontinuous as well. Some of these things you can argue either way, but let's just keep it simple like that. Height, there is a large range of heights that somebody can be. They could be 160 centimeters, 160.1. So there is a huge range in that one. So that would be a continuous type of variation. And then rolling your tongue, that is another discontinuous one. Either you can or you can't. So you would be able to find lots of other types of variation that fit under continuous or discontinuous if you think of you and your friends or parents and things like that. So let's move on to, now that we've seen what variation is, why is variation important? So two definitions that we'll need before moving on is firstly individual. So an individual is just a single organism, so we could talk about an individual plant or an individual animal. So an individual mouse, an individual tree. And phenotype. So phenotype is the visible characteristic or trait of an individual. So sometimes you will hear phenotype, sometimes you will hear trait. So a phenotype could be a ginger beard, for example, or blue eyes. So let's continue on to why variation is important. So let's think of two individuals within a species. We have this rabbit here, and the phenotype of this rabbit is that it has white fur, and this other individual here has got the phenotype of dark fur. So why is it that there are differences between individuals within the same species? What benefit does that provide to the species? Well, let's say that these rabbits live in an environment where things are relatively dark. Let's say they live in a grassy area where the grass is relatively dark. It's quite a cloudy area most of the time. So the dark furred rabbits blend into the environment. So what will happen is that the rabbits that have dark fur blend in. Any predators that are in the environment are not able to see the dark furred rabbits as well as they're able to see the light furred rabbits. So what that will mean is that the light furred rabbits will be less likely to survive and reproduce and pass on their genes. So we'll end up with less white rabbits in the population, whereas the dark furred rabbits are more likely to survive because they blend in and are less likely to be predated. The problem would be if we only had dark furred rabbits in the population is if there was an environmental change in that area. So let's say over time that area became colder and colder and gradually it started getting more and more snow. That would mean that if there was lots of snow, the white rabbits would have an advantage because they would blend into their environment and the predators would not be able to see them quite so easily. So we would end up with a greater proportion of white rabbits in the population because they would survive and be able to pass on their phenotype to the next generation. What would happen if there wasn't this variation to begin with is that if the environment changed, then there would be no individuals that would be better adapted to that change in environment, and the whole species could die out. So the benefit of having variation amongst individuals in a species is that it provides a species the opportunity to adapt to a new environment. So that is our first video on genetic variation. What is variation and what is the importance of variation? Thanks very much for watching. Like and subscribe for more genetic variation videos. Thanks.